It's Wellness Wednesdays, and I'm recording just in time to see Zelda getting into her spot. Right, Zelly Belly? Right. It's Wellness Wednesdays, and hey, finally got a chair with neck support. I got Momo colors. I know it's gonna get really dirty, but I figure with the white shelves behind me, it'll look better for as long as it's clean. But yeah, I got the gaming chair. And I am doing things to take better care of myself because 2 doctors in as many weeks have told me I work too hard, I work too damn much, I need to take better care of myself. Ha ha, tech industry problems, right? Yeah, but I'm gonna try because first of all, when 2 doctors both tell you the same thing for different reasons, you have to sort of start taking it seriously. You can't say I believe in science and ignore the doctor who's looking at your particular case. But also, I realized, I do this every Wednesday, and I do things to like help people work through their problems and feel better. And I'm like letting myself get way run down, and that's stupid. And it's a bunch of things. It's a bunch of bad habits. I know what they are. But this is something I have found in a lot of mental health stuff. Sometimes the problem is identifying the problem. Therapy can be very useful for that sort of thing. I don't tend to have that problem. I tend to be very good at diagnosing what the issue is. Diagnosing sounds bad. I'm not a doctor. But it's that what do I do about it thing that I've always struggled with, which is why I started doing Wellness Wednesday because, as I said, when I started these segments, normally when you get to the, neck restraint, whoa, okay, that's going to take some work. But normally when you get to the what do you do about it thing, you get a whole bunch of platitudes, right? Come on, share, work with me. There we go. But this is why I started Wellness Wednesday. How do you do it? And for me, it's just basically reassessing expectations, recognizing that I have an audience that is understanding. And as long as I communicate with them and explain what's going on, they will understand. Nobody's putting these ridiculous time constraints on me but me anymore. I'm not doing any other contracts for other people at this moment. Watch, that'll change. But that it's been a long time since I've been able to say that, which is, it's kind of nice because it's not like, oh my God, but it's new. And ever since I was in high school and we were in the semestered system and doing 2 to 3 hours of homework a night, and I was doing competitive dance, and I was doing extracurricular activities at school. Society trains achieving people to wear themselves down and not value themselves as humans from a very, very, very young age. And retraining yourself out of that is difficult, right? Because I did the same thing a lot of people did. I'm going to eat healthier and I'm going to do all this sleep science and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And it didn't matter how much kale I ate. It didn't matter how much whole grain, how much quinoa. I kept feeling more and more and more run down, but it didn't matter how tired I was. I'd wake up after 3 hours. That's what's been going on. And, the doctors are like, well, you're over exercising. I'm like, what? That's possible. Trainer told me that a while ago. I realized you're over exercising and you're overworking. So your brain doesn't have the rhythm of like calm. It's constantly on alert. It doesn't know when it's okay to shut down. And it's like, okay, what do we do about that? You have to work less. So I'm going to have to figure out how to work more efficiently, so I'm working fewer hours. I do think that not being an active part of a crunch culture is going to help a lot. But, I could have gone out and chased another gig and put myself back on that treadmill. And after Boss Fight episode 4 got finished, I admit I was exhausted. Part of it is this bloody COVID lockdown, where everything is just difficult and time consuming and frustrating, and it's this constant mental. The doctor's like, "That's not helping your sleep." I'm like, "Awesome," and it's that sort of thing. I went back. It was interesting because what worked for me in terms of making myself know what, logically, I know this is for the best. You'll be more productive. You'll do more with fewer hours. Just please give it a try. My gut, the lizard brain is going, no, must do all the things. Exciting things are happening now. Must do all the things. And for some odd reason, then something the catering manager, when I got married, said to us about the open bar. I was very big on the planning for the wedding. I know some people want the big day. I liked the planning. I liked the planning and the execution. I think that's so I didn't have to think about an event where everybody was there to look at me. Then I'm like, no, look at the bride. That's a character. All right, good. Introvert shell intact. But it was this issue of open bar versus cash bar. We didn't want people getting sloshed because we were both working clubs still at the time. We had to deal with drunk people for a living. We didn't want to have to deal with drunk people at our wedding. And the caterer, this very nice historic place, said, it's cash bars are still considered tacky. But what you do is you only serve beer and wine until after the meal. You don't serve hard liquor beforehand. But, the beer and wine, it's unlimited. It's all, it's on the table. It's very nice. And if somebody goes up to the bar and wants something else, they say after the meal. We've selected the beverages to complement the meal. So after the meal, you can have whatever you want. And the psychology was not no. It was not yet. And she insisted that people would be fine with this. And people were fine with it, which I was really surprised at because, I come from a long line of functional alcoholics. I did not think that was going to work, but it worked like a charm. And I realized, why can't I do that with my own schedule? Don't tell myself, no, you can't do this. Say, not now. You'll do it in a couple of days. So I'm going to try this experiment. So far, it's actually working pretty well. Over the weekend, it's like, no, you're not doing this now. This isn't the right time. You're going to do it on Monday. And I did. And I actually felt like I had energy when I got up on Monday. Who would have thought downtime actually works? There's a reason, there's a reason every major religion has a Sabbath. And there is sort of ancient wisdom in that regard. And I kick myself because the most important commandment is to remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. And you think about that as a religious thing, right? And so you go, pfft. But no, it's a self-care thing. It's a rest thing. You have to have your own personal Sabbath every week so you don't get totally run down. It is not responsible to be going all the time. And that is true, not just of scheduling. That is true of people pleasing. It is not responsible to say yes to everything, because then you're doing a a half-assed job on everything. It is not responsible to worry all the time. You're burning yourself out. It's one thing to plan. It's one thing to do sort of pre-planning of, okay, this may happen, visualizing it. If this happens, I'm going to do this. If this happens, I'm going to do this, as opposed to the, oh my God, what's going to happen? What am I going to do if it happens? Just totally unproductive, intrusive thoughts, right? That doesn't help anything. It really doesn't. Because you know what? Like, if something bad does happen, well, all that freaking out probably didn't prepare you, if you're not doing effective strategizing. And if nothing happens, well, you spent all the time worrying for nothing. And you don't know. So, but it's the same thing. I think a lot of people feel anxiety because they've been trained to feel anxious about things because it was honed as responsibility. Remember I said it goes all the way back to school. I used to spend so much to every second I possibly had putting into assignments and studying for tests and all that stuff because teachers drilled conscientiousness into us. And, instead of recognizing that, look, in the real world, you have to pace yourself because you don't have that 2 months during the summer to recoup because you totally exhausted yourself during the school year, But I thought I was being conscientious by pouring every last second of everything into assignments and projects and everything like that. And it took me until adulthood to realize, no, there is value to simply being with the universe and figuring out who you are as a person, especially in creative industries, because you need that downtime, that slow brain, that percolation thing. And I have been finding that I'm not grinding my gears as much. The creativity is coming back because I'm not constantly doing stuff just for the sake of being conscientious. But that was what the education system drilled into me. The go, go, go all the time, 110%, because it was like, well, if I blow this test, I can't say I didn't do everything I possibly could have to do okay at it. And the truth is that there were things that I could have done better, like getting more sleep, say, having less stress. And I don't think I'm alone with achieving people. I don't like the term overachieving because what the hell does that mean, right? But there is, I find that creates a paradigm where you're not really valuing yourself as a person. Your value is in your output, right? Your test scores, your how much work you got done. There's no intrinsic, I have value because I'm a nice, caring person. I have value because I give a shit about other people. I have value because when I give my word, I keep it. Those sorts of things. That intrinsic value gets ignored for productivity. So then when you get into situations where judgments are totally subjective, and there are a lot of those out there. I'm using the neck rest again. There are a lot of those out there. It's awful. It's awful because there's no objective mark, right? Because in TV, ratings, video views, they're not really objective. You can make great product. You can do everything right. And, whenever there was a playoff game in hockey, an NHL playoff game back in the TV days, our ratings were down. And the station manager used to make fun of me for saying that. But I knew what I did whenever I watched hockey or I watched basketball. Those are my sports. Basketball, hockey. But on nights there was a game, I didn't change the channel to see what else was on. The game finished and I turned the TV off because I'd just been having an adrenaline experience for the last few hours. I didn't want to watch any more TV. And so even though we were on right after hockey, people didn't channel surf, right? And I got made fun of for that. But then, I learned more and I found out, no, I'm right. Those patterns do matter. And there was nothing we could do about it. Ratings are down. And then, of course, next week they'd be right back up. This is what happens in media. Whenever they think they can weaken you on something, whenever they think they have a negotiating angle on you, even if the people are allegedly your friends, they will use it, right? Because it's all about making you feel like you are worth less, so you will ask for less money and do more work. That's the argument, right? It's Carney rules. And so those trying to find intrinsic self-worth in that environment when I had been trained through school to have my entire worth be about my achievements. It took a lot of adjustment. It took probably 9-10 years for me to figure out how to find baseline again. The other weird thing when I was in TV, it was the first time in my life people treated me like I was cool but stupid, as opposed to nerdy but really smart. It was a polar shift. It was weird, man. But that's the thing about subjectivity. You go from one environment to another environment with a completely different lens, and all of a sudden, to the outside world, you're a totally different person. Of course you're not, but you're judged as if you are. It's weird. And that's why achievement-based self-esteem is very fragile. It's very precarious. You do need to do some exercises, and this is where we're going with this in terms of wellness. It is a learned skill to validate your own innate worth. Not what you produce that day, who you are, what your good qualities are. And you know if you're loyal. You know if you keep your promises or you try really damn hard. You know if you're conscientious. You know these things. Even if you try to do that, humility thing where it's arrogant to say good things about myself, so I'm not even going to think it. It's not. It's not. A healthy sense of self means knowing your strengths as well as your weaknesses. And the world obsesses and gets us to obsess about the things we're not good at. The problem is that nobody can be good at everything. So if you only focus on what you're not good at and improving those things, you end up going around in a circle with no real direction, because the reason you get good at the stuff you're not good at is to supplement and make better the things you really enjoy and are good at, right? If you want to run a business with art, it helps to have a basic understanding of math to do your own books, right? You're never going to be like advanced theoretical math, but you know how to calculate percentages and so on and so forth, right? That's just an example. There was this thing with my husband where he'd always ask through school when he was in school, what do I ever need the Pythagorean theorem for? And they'd say, well, fence post, all these things that were really not applicable. And I said, well, if you ever need to measure the length of a diagonal without being able to fold something in half, you need that. Why would I need that? I'm like, lighting, set building, costuming or anything like that where you can't measure. You have to calculate because you can't access that place directly. Oh, well, why didn't they tell me that the minute it was useful, right? the minute it was relevant, suddenly he's like, oh, well, maybe I do need it, right? That's why you develop the things you're less good at, to facilitate the things you are good at and enjoy doing, so you're not just doing some Joe job for the rest of your life, right? But there are some things that you can be decent at, but you're never going to be great. And the only way to be okay with that is recognize what you really are good at, right? And you don't have to be the best in the world. Just, yeah, you're good at that. And it's okay to say so. And that intrinsic worth allows you a rooting, a grounding. So that when everybody's on you, you're this, you're that, the name calling, the gaslighting, the nagging, the guilt, the shame, right? You can go, that's your opinion. And it actually does work. It actually gets easier and easier and easier, not through practice of getting insulted, but building up that intrinsic self-worth and then doing the practice by getting insulted. If you don't have that intrinsic self-worth, the insults are just going to traumatize you. They just baffle me. I see her going, you guys have said, like, all last week, the week before, I was like, I want to understand. What's going, I don't get it. But it didn't change what I thought about myself. It didn't make me doubt myself, because there is that, intrinsic sense of worth. Now, where I'm bad is the spending money on myself thing. I'll spend money on business, but spending money on myself, like this chair, I'm like, oh God, it's so expensive. That's something I need to work on, right? Because it took 2 doctors telling, because I get bad TMJ pain, right? And it took 2 doctors going, this isn't going to go away unless you start taking better care of yourself. And then you get into the cycle of jaw hurts, can't sleep, mind starts going because everything's, so can't sleep. Because I can't sleep, jaw pain never eases, the muscles never relax, the grinding never stops. Lather, rinse, repeat gets worse and worse and worse, right? It's never going to stop until I make it stop. And, mouth guards don't work. I'm, pain pill resistant, all that stuff. There's no shortcuts. And people are going, oh my God. But every time in my life, I have hit a point where I discover there are no shortcuts to doing this the right way. It is long-term been really good for me. That kind of adversity is long-term very positive for me. It makes me better. And that's the experience that allows me to go into this with a good frame of mind, right? Unlike when I gave up coffee pods that I did out of guilt because of environmental stuff, and I'm still mad about it. And every time I get coffee grinds all over the place when I have to empty out that coffee maker basket and I'm like, I miss my coffee pods, because I did not go into that with a good state of mind. I'm going into this with a good state of mind. So I think it's going to work out much better than my resentment over not having coffee pods is. I'm still not using coffee pods, but I'm not happy about it. Okay, if you like this sort of weird modern day Irma Bombeck take on, feeling better about things, who's Irma Bombeck? Google it. It's a really old reference. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching.